So just a little bit about me. I'm Vinita Silversetti. I'm currently the Chief Data Scientist at Trendwise Analytics. I'm also an author. I've published a book on deep learning. So it's a collection of deep learning projects using Python, TensorFlow, and Keras. I've done my master's in data science at Newcastle University over in UK. So you can see more about me on my screen here. And before we begin, just a few housekeeping rules that we have. Kindly stay on mute. This is to ensure that everyone can hear the session and follow along, and it just makes the entire session smooth. So I appreciate your cooperation with keeping your mics on mute. But do keep your phones silent, but ready for the QR codes, because I do have a few quizzes for you to make the session a little more interactive. We will be using Slido, and for that, you need to have your QR code scanner ready. There will be no live Q&A. This is mostly to save time because we do have a short session. But keep posting your questions in the chat, and I will have a look at them. At the end, we will dedicate about 10 minutes to questions that you have. I will be answering them at that time. I can't promise that I will cover all your questions because we have only 10 minutes, but I will try my best to cover all of them. This is a hands-on session. We will be having a hands-on coding session, so I highly encourage you to participate. I'm sure that you were given the prerequisites for it, which are to keep your Google Colab or Jupyter Notebook ready for this session. And I hope that all of you have a subscription for OpenAI, because we'll be using the API key from OpenAI. So this means we will integrate ChatGPT into our project. If you don't have it ready, no problem. I plan to do the hands-on session after our 10-minute break. This is mostly to give you time to set up for the hands-on session. So you can take that time to get the API key ready if you don't already have it. So here's an agenda for what we're planning to cover today. We're going to do a brief overview of Agentic AI, as well as our objectives for the day. Then we'll do a quick audience poll. All right, this is where we're going to use Slido. This is not a graded assignment, so don't worry about the score. It is just for me to understand your current level of knowledge about Agentic AI, and we can move along with the session according to this. So then I will explain the key concepts of Agentic AI, and we will do a case study, right? That'll be very interactive, and you can join in there. And this case study is going to be of a real world example. Then I'll show you a demo. So I created a small, a small code with a demo so that I can show you how Agentic AI works. And it uses tools such as OpenAI, Crew AI, right, and Python. So with these three elements, you're going to see a step-by-step breakdown of how AI agents work. Then, of course, we'll have our 10-minute break so that you can absorb everything that we cover in this session. After that, we will have the live coding session where you're going to implement an AI agent. Then we're going to discuss security concerns as well as scaling strategies, because in the industry, if you want to use Agentic AI, you need to be able to scale it for industry uses. Then we're going to talk about responsible AI. Now, with great power, you may have heard the saying, with great power comes great responsibility. So Agentic AI gives us a lot of power and capabilities to do a lot, but this also means we need to be responsible with the way that we handle Agentic AI. Finally, we will have the Q&A session. And after that, we're going to have an assessment where you will be graded. And this is an important assessment. This is why I'll try to cover the Q&A before the assessment. So we do have a lot planned for today. It's going to be a fun session. To start off, I kindly request everyone to get out your cameras on your mobile phones and scan this code. This will take you to the ungraded assessment, which is just to help me understand your current level of knowledge of Agentic AI. So can everyone please take out their camera and scan this QR code. So what you see on my screen is what you should be seeing on your phone. That is the quiz.
It says there are no active polls at the moment.
Oh, okay. Thank you for letting me know. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Can you please share the QR code again?
Sure. Okay, can everyone see it now, the QR code and the screen? All your names have popped up here. Okay, so I think we have a good majority of you. 106. All right, I'll start the session. You should be able to see the first question on your screen. This is an MCQ, so you can just select the answer that you feel is appropriate. Okay, looks like most of you have answered. You should be able to see question 2 now. Okay, that's good. Now we're moving on to question 3. Good response. You should be able to see question 4 on your screen. And finally, question 5. So this is just a short quiz. And we're already on the last question. All right. So thank you for participating, everyone. You should be able to see the leaderboard on the screen. All of you have done really well. So I'm really happy to see that your current basic knowledge of Agentic AI is strong, which means this session is going to be really fun for you to follow along with. Okay, kindly bear with me while I switch back to the slides. Okay, so here are the objectives for today's session. First, we're going to learn about the three key components of Agentic AI. So these components are perception, decision-making, and execution. Without these three components, your AI agent will not function correctly. Then we're going to explore a real-world use case of autonomous AI, and we're going to gain hands-on experience by building a simple AI agent. This will be in marketing, so if any of you is from a marketing background, I think you will really enjoy it. And even if you're not, don't worry, you don't need to have a marketing background to understand it. Then we're going to discuss the security, ethical concerns, and best practices in deploying AI agents. All right, let's go to the live demo. So I'm going to share with you a document, and it's for a product, okay, a very generic product. But the idea behind this is to help you immerse yourself in the demo. It's called the Anti-Lost Smart Mini GPS Tracker, and you should be able to see it in the chat now. It's a PDF file, so please do download it.
Chat is not available right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, thank you for letting me know. Mr. Ramkumar, could we please make it available for everyone? If not, then that's fine. I can still explain. Okay, everyone, while we're working on this technical issue of the chat, I will continue with the code explanation. So I'm going to share a new screen with you now. And this is an app known as Streamlit. It's really nice because you can make a user interface for any program that you make. So let's say you're not ready to deploy yet, but you want to create a test or a demo version of your product, then Streamlit is a great way to use or a product to use. Now you can see that this demo is for a social media campaign optimization app. This app uses Agentic AI in the background. So I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes.
Okay, good.
You're muted. You're not able to hear you.
Oh, thank you for letting me know. So hopefully I'm now audible.
Yes.
Okay. Now in this demo that I've created for you, like I was saying, it uses Agentic AI, right? And the main agent, I've given it the name Social Campaign Agent, because the more specific you are with your description of the kind of agent that you want, the better your results will be. So this campaign creation agent will create the campaign, and then it'll do an analysis on the performance of the campaign. So when it comes to marketing, many marketers use what is known as A/B testing. I'm sure some of you have heard of this at some point. A/B testing just means you have two different versions of a certain, let's say an ad, because we're talking about marketers right now. So they are going to create two versions of an ad, and they're going to see which ad gets the most attention, right? Because in the end, marketing is all about getting attention, getting customers to buy your product. So you need to know which design gets that kind of response. And that's what A/B testing helps you to do. It's also known as split testing. Now, coming back to our agent, instead of having a person test these two different ads manually, the agent does it for you. And then it gives you a report telling you things like what time to post at, and which design is the best, or which design got the best response. And with this information, you can optimize your social media campaign. So that's what we mean by a performance analysis. It's going to tell you these kind of details. And then it'll provide recommendations. So you have everything in one spot. You get your recommendations, and all you have to do is take the design that it recommends and post it at the time that it recommends. Okay, and you will get the best possible result. So this demo, it will first save your campaign with a unique ID. This is important because if you're creating multiple campaigns, you need to organize them well. So it gives you a unique ID. And then it logs the creation of the campaign. Again, logging is very important so that when you go back to see the performance and you want to compare the performance, you have the logs of the exact campaign and how it was created. It then returns the campaign ID and evaluates the campaign performance. So when we talk about important metrics in marketing, those would include engagement rate. All right, this means it measures how many people interacted with the content. So ideally, you want a very high engagement rate to make sure that a lot of people are interacting with the advertisement and they feel compelled, right? Or they feel like buying the product that you're selling. Then the next one is conversion rate. So this is a percentage value, and it's the percentage of users who completed a desired action. So for example, if you want to have the people viewing your ad click on the ad, then that is the desired action, that action of clicking on the ad. So by checking the conversion rate, you're checking what percentage of people who viewed your ad also clicked on your ad. Okay. Then you have cost per click. That is, how much is spent per ad click. Now, usually for a campaign, it's not cheap. You do need to spend in order to show it to the audience. And then you want that, you want as many people as possible to click on the ad, because then you're getting back your return on investment, right? The return on investment is just how many people have clicked on the ad in this case. Okay, so let's now run this demo. You can see that it asks for the company name. Here we're just doing a random company, an imaginary one, so I'm going to call it Tech Brand. You can call it anything, but for this demo's purpose, I'm going to call it Tech Brand. Now the daily budget, this usually depends on the kind of campaign you're trying to run. If it's a test campaign, you can even put it as 5 rupees, just see how much attention it gets. But for the sake of this demo, we're just going to put it at 1,000 rupees. Then we have the risk tolerance. Now, usually newer brands or newer companies tend to have a higher risk tolerance because they're willing to do anything to get attention from their potential clients or potential customers. So they tend to have a much higher risk tolerance. But companies which already have a good brand and people recognize them easily, they tend to be more conservative, or they have a lower risk tolerance because they want to make sure that they maintain the trust that their customers have in them. So they don't do very crazy things to get attention. So for the purpose of this demo, we're going to stick at 50%. This is why you will see it is at 0.50. This is 50%. We're just going to say we're at an equal stage here. We're not going to be too high, neither are we going to be too low. Now let's give the campaign a name, right? This will help it create the unique ID. So I'm just going to call it GPS tracker because that is the name of the product. And then you'll see that we get the option of several platforms. We can choose Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn, depending on which audience we're trying to target. I'm just going to maybe take Facebook, just for the example. Now it's asking us for content variations. This means the ad that we want to show to our consumers, we need to give it 3 different types. All right, and based on that, it's going to develop the advertisements and create the A/B test for us. So to save time, I have it pre-written here. Let me just copy it. And I will paste it. Okay, just bear with me. Right, these are all 3. And I'm pasting them here. So let me just go through the 3 different types. The first one says, never lose track of your furry friend. So this is if you have a pet and you want to make sure that they're safe at all times, you can use this GPS tracker on your pet. This is why it says real-time GPS, 2-way alerts, and waterproof durability. So you can see how this first version of the ad tries to highlight a use case. So that is for pets. And it even highlights the other features that are useful for a pet. Because usually, especially, let's say you have a pet dog, they love to jump into puddles, right? So you need this tracker to be waterproof. And that's why this is one of the features that are highlighted. And it ensures the safety no matter where their adventures take them. So wherever your pet goes, this GPS will track where they are, and you know that they're safe. The second version. So remember, we're separating them using these double apostrophes, right? And the second one says, stay connected with your pet at all times. So track their location instantly, get notified if they wander too far. That's a main concern, right? If anyone has a pet with them, you feel worried if you don't see your pet near you. And then enjoy peace of mind with a 7-day battery life. So here we are highlighting that the battery has a 7-day life period. And in the third version, it says from swimming to park strolls, because usually this is what pets like to do. If they see a lake, they love to jump in and start swimming, or they love going to the park. Then this lightweight GPS tracker keeps your pet safe and your worries at bay. So we're saying that it is lightweight. This is what we're highlighting in this version of the advertisement. Then control everything easily from your smartphone. So here we're highlighting that it's lightweight and it's connected to your smartphone. So you can always track your pet at any time. These are the 3 different versions that we have for the advertisement. Now, it's asking us about the target age range. So just for the demo purpose, we're going to assume that our customers are between the age of 18 to 35. Usually in marketing, they do a lot of analysis and they do a survey. And based on that, they find out the ideal age range. But here it's just a demo. So we're going to take this assumption that our customers are between the ages of 18 to 35. Now it's asking for the interests. So our ideal customer, what interests do they have? Okay. We're going to say that they have an interest in technology and gadgets. Right? So we're going to fill it in as technology and gadgets. Then the target location. So since we're in India, let's just type in India. And the campaign budget, we'll just keep it at 5,000 for now. Usually it depends on where you're working. Your manager will tell you this is your budget and make the ads accordingly. So we're just going to give it 5,000, and then we'll give it a start date and an end date. As you can see, the start date is today, and the end date is the 22nd. So we're just doing a short test. Now, finally, we're ready to do the analysis. So we click on Analyze Campaign, and within seconds, we get a report. So the agent, the agentic AI behind this code, has done this analysis for us and quickly given us a report. But if we were depending on a person to do it, it would take a number of days. This is one of the advantages of using agentic AI as compared to, manual testing. So let's take a look at the report that was given to us. It says campaign 1136. So this is the unique ID that it has given to our campaign. And no other campaign will have the same ID. That's another advantage of agentic AI. Now, sometimes if a human person does this analysis, there might be human error, right? They might forget that they have already given this ID to the campaign, and they might repeat the ID. But with agentic AI, it's able to quickly assess that it has already given this number, and now it shouldn't give this number or this ID to any other campaign. And the date, it's written today's date because that's when the report was generated. And it gives us the performance summary. Now, keep in mind, we didn't actually run a campaign, right? Because it's still the 20th of Feb, but we said the end date should be the 22nd. So how has it already given us a report? Now, what it did is it took the historical data that is present in ChatGPT, and it has given us a report based on that. So it saw that we're using a tracking device, and from its historical data, it took whatever performance has been recorded, and it has given us a report based on that. All right, this is just for the demo purpose. So it has taken that historical data. But if you're using this in a real world use case, then you would need to let the campaign run till the end date, which is the 22nd of Feb, according to our demo. And then you will get the report. Okay. So in this report, it tells us that the average engagement rate for the kind of advertisement that we want, which is a Facebook advertisement for a GPS tracking device, it says that it is 6.80%. And then it's telling us that the average conversion rate is 4.24%. Okay, so from this, we understand that out of an audience of, let's say, 100, because this is a percentage, right? An audience of 100, the interaction rate is 6.80. That means this many people found it interesting enough to click on it. And then the conversion rate is the number of clicks. Okay, that's 4.24%. Now the cost per click is $1.1111. So of course the currency can be changed as well when you're coding the agent itself. Here it was set as dollars. And then the total ROI, so the return on investment, is 1.95. Okay. Now the audience analysis, it's going to tell us, yes, it has separated the engagement rate and the conversion rate. Here, since it was a very short demo, it could just give us this much information. But if you connect it to real world data, right, for a real world use case, it'll give you even more information, like where this person is from, your customer, what their gender is, and things like that. Now, optimal posting schedule. This is important because there are certain times of the day when your customer will be active online, and that's when you want to catch them, right? You want to show them your ad when they are online. So according to ChatGPT or the agent, we now know that the best days to post are Monday and Wednesday. So if we're putting a Facebook advertisement, it will be Monday and Wednesday. And the timings are 9 a.m. to 17, right? So that's 5 p.m. And this is very handy because you don't just want to post at any time of the day that will waste your budget. Instead, when you post at exactly this time, you get the maximum possible views as well as engagement. So that's everything it tells us in the report. The platform engagement rate and cost efficiency score is 1.11. Okay, now it's given us recommendations as well. It's saying improve the targeting parameters to increase conversion rates, which is very true because our conversion rates right now are low, and that's because it's used historical data, right? So this is a demo of how we can use agentic AI for social media campaigns to improve the performance and get results quickly. I will be sharing the code with you at the end of the session because right now it's using my API key. So I would like to remove that first before I share the code with you. Okay, I will now be switching back to our slide deck. All right. You should be able to see the slides now. So now that we have gauged your understanding of agentic AI and seen a live demo of how it works, let's talk about what agentic AI is, right? We'll give it a more formal definition. So agentic AI refers to autonomous AI systems. That means they work on their own, standalone. They don't need to be coded explicitly, meaning you don't have to tell them, first do this, then do that. You don't have to give them like a sequence of steps. They are able to think about it on their own and execute accordingly. So these systems not only respond to inputs, but also take independent actions based on their environment, right? So if you give them a marketing environment, then they understand what needs to be done in that environment. And then the goals. So if you give them a goal, like I want the maximum number of clicks on my advertisement, then they will understand that this is their goal and they will work according to that. And learned experiences. Now that's another thing with agentic AI, it's constantly learning. Let's say it makes a mistake or it does something which is not ideal, and then you give it this feedback saying that, no, I don't want this output, I want this output. It keeps that in mind and learns. It will see what it did wrong and it'll fix it so that in the next iteration or the next time that it tries the same thing, it gives you a better result, which is closer to what you expect. So always keep in mind, agentic AI is constantly learning. So AI can perceive, right? It can understand for itself what you want and how it should be done, and then execute tasks without constant human supervision. And this is why AI is such a big deal, especially agentic AI. And this is why you hear about a lot of people talking about it, because it can automate our tasks. Now, let's take a look at the difference between traditional AI and agentic AI, because we started out with saying AI is, the latest and greatest, but recently we've switched to agentic AI is popular. So when it comes to traditional AI, especially for decision making, it waits for instructions, right? We have to give it a prompt, or we have to tell it that we want this to be done and we want this result. But agentic AI, it's able to make these decisions on its own. Okay, with just a little bit of background, it's able to make decisions. Then we have adaptability. Traditional AI does struggle a little bit if it gets unexpected inputs. So it's not ready for unexpected situations. But agentic AI is able to adjust based on the context because it's constantly learning. So it says, fine, I made this mistake and got this output. Let me see how I can improve and get a better result next time. It does this all on its own. Then autonomy. So traditional AI requires constant supervision. You need to constantly check what the output is, check the logs, and then tell it this is what needs to be corrected. Okay, you need to explicitly tell it. But in agentic AI, it can operate with minimal oversight. You don't even have to be present. You don't have to look at the logs. It's able to go through its own logs and identify what it did wrong or what it did right. If it's done something right, it keeps a note of that as well, so that it can do the same thing next time. Then actions. So for traditional AI, it only responds when asked, right? So think about ChatGPT. You first have to type in a question, and then it'll give you an answer. But in the case of agentic AI, it takes proactive steps. It will ask you, do you want me to do this? Or, is this the output you're expecting? So that's proactive, right? It's not waiting for you to tell it, do this, or I'm expecting this. It'll ask you instead on its own. And those are the differences between traditional AI as well as agentic AI. Now, you can think of agentic AI like an independent thinker, okay? It can observe, decide, and act on its own. So if you take the scenario in a workplace, you have the interns and the managers. So traditional AI is like the intern. It's not able to make decisions on its own. It'll always ask questions, right? It has a lot of questions and it'll try to clarify a lot of things. So there's a lot of supervision required for them. But agentic AI, you can think of them like the manager. The manager is able to think independently and take actions independently, right? They're more experienced. So agentic AI is similar to a manager within a company. And traditional AI is similar to an intern. They'll have a lot of questions, they'll need a lot of supervision, which is not a bad thing, but of course, having something that can work autonomously is more beneficial. So traditional AI is reactive. It'll first wait for you to give it inputs and information and even permission, and only then it'll take action. But agentic AI is proactive. It will take actions on its own, and it will ask you, is this what you want? Is that what you want? And it'll execute accordingly. All right. So why is agentic AI important? Now, as businesses and industries continue to automate processes, these days that's what they're doing, right? And that's why there is a little bit of fear that some people have, that AI is going to take away our jobs. What do we do in the future? So I do have a comment on that as well, to ease everyone's minds. So if you're worried that AI is going to, take over your job, there's really nothing to worry about, because you can think of this like the next industrial revolution. Do you remember, in history class, we learned about this. We learned that machines started to come in to the picture. Earlier, people would do everything manually. So if you had a factory job, your life was set. You knew that you had your job, you had job security, right? And you would get paid for the work that you did. But when machines started coming in, people were scared. They thought machines are going to take over our job. What do we do? There was a lot of panic and fear at that time as well. But you see how we switched from manual labor to software engineering, right? We now learned how to design systems that do our jobs for us. So we're not out of a job, but our jobs have become easier, actually speaking. Even in factories, now you need less people, but they are the ones who are overseeing what the machines do. So you can't fully trust a machine to do your job. And it's the same with AI. Even with agentic AI, it's still not perfect. You still need someone to supervise it. So just think of it like that. It is a change in the industry or a shift, right? So maybe life will change, we'll have a new kind of job that comes up, which requires less effort from us and would be more of supervising machines. So I really hope that, calms some nerves if there's anyone worried about AI taking over their job. Coming back to our slide of why agentic AI is so important. Businesses are automating, so they face new challenges that traditional AI cannot solve, right? So agentic AI offers a way forward by enabling systems that can think, adapt, and act independently, which reduces human workload and improves efficiency. So these are the key terms here when it comes to agentic AI. It can work independently, so this reduces human effort, and then it can adapt to new situations without being explicitly reprogrammed. That's a very important term here. You don't have to keep changing the code because the AI agent is able to do that on its own. Then you're able to make data-driven decisions in real time, right? So all you have to do is feed the data to the agent, and it makes decisions in real time based on your goals and what you want to achieve. Then it collaborates with humans. Notice this term, collaborates. It doesn't say that it takes over for the human or you don't need any human supervision. It just says collaborate, as well as other AI agents. So they can even work with each other. They work with humans and with each other to optimize tasks. So that's about the importance of agentic AI. Now let's do a case study. All right. So the case study here is on autonomous AI agents in financial trading. So this is a solution that JP Morgan came up with. I'm sure all of you have heard of JP Morgan Chase. They're a really good brand. Now, the problem that they had was that traditional traders were struggling with speed. So especially in the market, the trends are dynamic. They're constantly rising and falling, and traders need to be quick so that they can jump on profits as soon as possible and reduce losses as soon as possible, right? So they need to be quick. Then data processing. If a person is manually processing data, that takes time. And by then, the market would have changed and they would have lost some profits as well as made huge losses because they didn't remove the stocks in time or buy out the stocks, so to speak. Then there's emotional bias. Now, because traders are human, they have emotions, and this tends to sometimes affect their choices. Because if they start to get scared seeing a crash in the market, they'll try to buy back the stocks and reduce their losses as much as possible, which may not be the best decision. They're just acting emotionally. So if you have AI, it doesn't have emotions. It's pure data. It might, check in advance and see that, okay, there seems to be a dip in the market, but this also indicates that there will be a rise, a much larger rise, right? Which means that the profit after this dip, after this initial loss, will be much higher. So I'm going to stay with this share, right? That's what the AI will be able to tell. But a human trader would see the small dip and think, oh no, I'm losing my money. So I need to, sell it as fast as possible and get out of this loss. But they will lose out on that potential increase, right, in the price. So JP Morgan found that this was the issue they were having with traditional traders. So that means human traders. Now, here's the solution that they developed. They developed a system known as LOXM, which is an AI-powered trading bot. So this is a bot which does trading, and it's able to perceive real-time market data. So they give it market data in real time, and then it decides the best trading strategy. So based on the data that it receives, it thinks, okay, now's the time to buy or now's the time to sell. And then it executes the trades automatically. So it doesn't wait for someone to make the trade on its behalf. It does it on its own. Now, with this new system that they developed, right, here's the impact that it had. JP Morgan found that it was faster and more efficient to trade with this new system because it was able to work in milliseconds, right, which is not humanly possible. If you have a human there, you can't expect them to work within milliseconds. And then they found that they were able to be on the market 24/7 because this is just an agent. It doesn't need to sleep, it doesn't need to eat, so it was able to be on the market 24/7, making the right decisions. And then it's data-driven and emotion-free. That for them was really important. So without putting any emotions in the way, this agent was able to say, now's the right time to buy or now's the right time to sell. And they were experiencing higher profits and optimized trade thanks to this solution of theirs. So I will share the link with you later on so that you can read this case study for yourself. It's really interesting to see in detail how they've done it and executed it. But this was just an overview. All right. So let's talk more about how agentic AI works, right? In a step-by-step manner. How does it work? So agentic AI follows a structured sense, think, and act cycle. So this is important. It first senses what the requirement is and what the goals are, and then it thinks about it. It comes up with a plan or a set of steps that it's going to execute, and only then it acts, right? After coming up with its plan and analyzing the data, then it will act. So this allows it to perceive, decide, and execute actions autonomously, right? So step one, perception. What is this perception that we talk about? Perception is understanding the environment. Let me put the cursor here. All right, perception is understanding the environment. So what happens at this stage? The AI collects information, all right, from its environment, and this data can come from text or images or sensors. If we're talking about IoT, that is the Internet of Things, then you would have sensors involved. And then APIs. So in our hands-on project, we'll be using an API. So the information from that API is fed into this agent. And then databases. So you could even connect to a real-time database with user inputs, or to a historical database that you have stored somewhere, in the cloud maybe. And that's what we mean by perception. This is just where we give it the data so that it can understand the data. Okay. Then the second step is the decision-making step. After the AI agent analyzes the data and understands it, it now needs to make decisions about what it's going to do. So let's talk about what happens during this phase. The AI analyzes the data that you have provided, and then using machine learning models, it makes predictions about what it should do. Okay, so machine learning comes into play as well. It predicts the possible outcomes and chooses the best response. So just as a human would, analyze their situation and then decide, if I do this, it'll be the best outcome for me, or if I do that, the outcome may not be so ideal. We take time when we're processing all this, but agentic AI is able to do it quickly. It can even run through thousands of scenarios, which are both good and bad, and then decide which ones are the best to work with. So it then responds based on predefined goals. So we do just have to tell it what our expectations are for the outcome, and then it decides accordingly. Then the third step is execution. Okay, so execution is where it takes the action. The AI performs an action based on its decision. After it has made its decision, it will act on it. So this could involve sending a message. Maybe it has to send a message, or control a system, or even place a trade, just as we spoke about the JP Morgan case study, right? That was the action that agentic AI took. It placed trades. Then the fourth step is learning and self-improvement. Now, after taking an action, it will always analyze the output and see if there's anything it can improve on. So it's constantly taking feedback and perfecting itself. Some agentic AI systems have a feedback loop to improve their decision-making over time. So the more you use this agent, the better the performance. Okay, the AI analyzes the results of its actions and adjusts it for future decisions. Okay, so let's go through the steps again, but this time I will give you a little more of an example, basically. So in the first step, we spoke about perception, right? So we could take even this LOXM from JP Morgan. So since it's a trading AI or a trading algorithm, it gathers stock prices. That's the perception stage. It will gather stock prices. And ideally, this will be in real time, okay? Because the market changes quickly, so we need it to be in real time. That will be the first step that the agent does. It gathers stock prices. Now, the second step is the decision-making step, right? So it now decides, do I sell or do I buy? That's the decision-making step based on the data. It uses its machine learning models and it sees that, okay, I predict that this particular stock, let's say it's talking about Tesla, for example. So it says, I'm looking at the stock Tesla, and based on the data that I'm given, it looks like this is going to increase in price, right? So then it'll say, I'm going to hold perhaps because it's going to increase in price. So I'm going to hold the stock in Tesla. And then let's say it sees something like Intel. I'm sure all of you saw the news recently how Intel stocks crashed. So there was a lot of panic then too. Human traders, they panicked and they sold all their stock. But an AI agent might think differently. It might think that, okay, this is actually an excellent discount that I'm getting on the stock. So let me buy it now as much as I can, because in the future, the price might increase, right? So based on what the machine learning algorithm tells the agentic AI, it might see the situation differently. So that is about decision making. And then execution. So in the case of a trading bot or a trading agentic AI, it's pretty obvious. The execution is simply to buy a stock or sell a stock. Okay. And finally, we have learning. Now, after making the buy or sell action, the agentic AI will see how it performed. It'll see if the decision that it made was correct. If it sold a stock and yes, the price crashed, then it knows that this was the right decision to make. And it'll keep a log of this so that it can come back to it in the future. But if it sold a stock and then the price increased for that particular stock, it made a loss, right? Because it wasn't able to benefit from that increase in price. So then it notes this down as a mistake. It says it was a mistake to sell this stock. So next time, if I see this pattern that this stock followed, I know that actually in the future, it's going to make a profit. And so I should not sell it. Okay, so that's just an example of the different steps that agentic AI goes through. And I also hope you've understood the different terms: perception, decision making, and execution. Of course, execution is pretty straightforward. So mostly perception and decision making. Okay, everyone. So I'm sure that was a lot of knowledge that we've gone through, and now seems to be a good time for a break. So please do, stretch your legs, and we'll have a break of 10 minutes. If you don't have your API keys or your Jupyter notebook or Google Colab ready, please set them up as well, because after this we will be doing the hands-on session. Okay, everyone, I'll be sharing a timer so that we know when the break ends. Ideally, you should be able to see it on the screen. Let me set it to 10 minutes. There we go. And I'm starting the timer now. So thank you so much for following along, and I will see you in 10 minutes. So, hello everyone, and welcome back. As you can see, our timer has reached 0, which means our break is done. So I hope that you were able to get a break from your screen and maybe walk for a bit. I'll just wait for maybe 1 more minute in case some participants are still joining us. In the meantime, I hope that everybody has their OpenAI API key ready. And we checked the issue with the chat. So it turns out that for some of you, your company policy is not allowing you to access the chat. So no problem. I have shared the code notebook with the team at Future Tech, and they will pass it on to you. Okay, everyone, I think we had some extra time as well, so everyone could get settled. I will now share my screen with you, which has the notebook that ideally all of you received by email. So you should be able to see it on your screen right now. So using the raise hand button, I'm sure you can see it at the top of your screen. If you have not received the notebook, can you please click on the raise hand button? Okay, I see some hands up. Thank you for your cooperation. Please keep your hands up and we can make sure that you receive the notebook. So I'll repeat, if there's anyone who hasn't received the Colab notebook in their email, please click on the raise hand button. This will let me know that you have not received it yet. And please keep the raise hand button pressed so that, yes, that will help me check who has it and who doesn't. So I will also mention again about the chat. So the chat is enabled for everyone, but for some of you, your company policies are disallowing the chat. This is why you're having a bit of trouble. So no worries, we're sending the materials that you require by email. So kindly do check your spam and your inbox just in case it has gone in spam. Additionally, I'm putting it on the chat for those of you who are able to access the chat. Okay. If you do receive the notebook, please, click on the raise hand button again so that your hand is down, and I know that you've received it. I'm going to assume that those who have the raise hand button on or active do not have the notebook. So kindly do cooperate. So please do check your spam, everyone. The mail has been sent out. Ideally, everybody should have it. All right, I got a thumbs up from Samir. Thank you for letting me know. I still see some hands raised, so just waiting for you to confirm that you don't have it in your inbox. So the file that I shared is a Jupyter notebook, and you can run it using Colab. That's Google Colab, which you can see on my screen, or you can use Jupyter Notebook on your system. So you can use whatever's comfortable. Usually I find that students find Colab comfortable. That's why I've put it on Colab. But you can definitely use Jupyter Notebook if that's what you prefer.
हेलो
Yes, did someone have a question? Okay. So I've also sent it in the chat for those of you who do have access to the chat. You should be able to see it there. So just as a reminder, please check the inbox for the email ID that you shared with us with Future Tech. And sometimes it might go to spam by mistake, so please check your spam folders. This project uses Python and Crew AI. So don't worry if you're not too familiar with Python, because I will be providing you with the code and I will explain each line of the code. And of course, at the end of the session, I will give you the completed notebook as well, just in case you missed some of the code during this session. And I hope that everyone has installed the packages based on the prerequisites that were provided to you. But in case you haven't, don't worry. You can just watch my screen and you can still follow along with the session. Okay, everyone, I think I've given you enough time to settle and open your notebooks. If you're still having trouble with the notebook, don't worry, just look at my screen and follow along. And at the end of the session, I'll give you the completed notebook. Okay, everyone. Thank you for cooperating. So in the notebook, you will notice that it says resume screening with Agentic AI. So we're going to build an AI agent that will take a few resumes, okay? And it'll screen it for us and tell us what the score is or how appropriate it is for the role that we're looking for. All right. Now, first we'll go through the introduction. So this is a hands-on coding project which uses AI agents to screen resumes for a particular keyword. So we will have to type in the keyword and then the Agentic AI will do the rest. It scores the resume out of 100. So the total score will be 100. And based on that, it'll tell us if it's what percentage it is. And then it stores the score in a new CSV file. So it also creates a database for us, letting us know what score each resume has. So it takes multiple resumes in a PDF format. This is important. The file has to be in a PDF format, and it extracts the key qualifications. So first, it'll check the resume and see what qualifications the person has. Okay, then it compares that to the job description that we provide. Okay, and then it ranks the candidate. It sees if the candidate is close to the job description that we provide or not. Then it highlights any missing or preferred skills. So it will highlight all of this information and tell us. So the skills that we're using here or that you will be learning are PDF parsing. So this means using code, in this case Python code, to understand what is written in a PDF file. That is what we mean by PDF parsing, right? And then NLP, natural language processing. With NLP, we are able to teach a system how to understand language like we do, right? As a human being does. Then AI ranking algorithms. So the Agentic AI will use an algorithm to rank the different resumes based on the keyword that we provide. And finally, for automation, we're going to see how this entire process can be automated using Agentic AI. So let's understand the skills in more detail. PDF parsing. It's a software that automatically extracts important details from a PDF file. It'll ignore images formatting, and unnecessary text, right? So it only takes the important information from the PDF file. If there are any images, it's not going to take any of that, only the text, the important text that we want, which is in this case, the skills of the candidate. So it's only going to look for that and give us that information. Then natural language processing. This is the ability of a machine to understand, interpret, and generate human language. So you can think of it like a multilingual translator, right? If there's a translator who knows many different languages, maybe if we're taking Indian languages, maybe this translator knows Hindi and Marathi, right? All the different languages, Bengali. And then they also understand the accent, right? People from different states, they speak differently. So this translator is able to understand even the accent. And then synonyms, because sometimes for the same term, we have many different words, right? And then slang. So sometimes we might have like slang words for certain things. So this translator understands the language so deeply that they even know the synonyms and the slang terms, right? And that is how NLP works as well. It helps the machine understand our human language. Then we have AI ranking algorithms. So these AI systems rank things based on relevance and importance. So if there is a term which is important to us or relevant to us, it'll rank that higher than a term which we're not interested in. So a real world example is Netflix. Okay, Netflix doesn't just show you random movies, right? You may have seen when you're watching on Netflix, it'll show you a recommendation. It'll say you might like this show because you have watched this show. So this ranking that it does is based on your personal watch history. So let's say you love comedy shows, right? So Netflix will understand this from your data that you have been selecting comedy shows. So it'll recommend a new comedy show to you. It'll say you watch these previous comedy shows, so you might enjoy this one. And then what's popular, because sometimes, let's say, for example, in India, there is a certain show that is very popular. Maybe, you know, couples show is very popular. So it'll tell you, hey, other people in your country enjoy this show, this couple show, so maybe you will enjoy it too. And as well as what similar users liked, right? So based on all this information, Netflix will rank shows for you specifically and then recommend them to you. So this is how a ranking algorithm works. And we are going to apply all of these skills in this hands-on session. So let's start. For this session or this project, we're going to start by installing these libraries. So we're going to use PDF Plumber. This library extracts text from PDF files, which is useful for reading resume content. Okay, and then Pandas. So I'm sure you've heard of it at least at some point. Pandas handles structured data, and especially for processing, it's very useful. So if you have CSV files, right, or any other text files or tables, then Pandas will help you to analyze data and extract data from that file. So it's really good for data analysis. Once you have extracted the data, you can also start to analyze the data. Then we have OpenAI. So this is where we're going to use the API from. And it allows interaction with OpenAI's GPT model, ChatGPT, for AI-based resume screening. So we are going to have ChatGPT scan our resumes that we give it and tell us about the relevant keywords. Okay, this is why the API key is so important. Then our agent is able to connect with ChatGPT. And then we have a library called Fuzzy Wuzzy, which compares text similarity using fuzzy matching. This helps to match resume skills to job descriptions. So fuzzy just means it gets a rough idea of the word, and then it sees if it is similar to what we're looking for, and it tells us, yes, this is relevant, or no, this is not relevant. And that's why it helps us match resume skills to our job description. So these are all the libraries we're going to use. Now we're finally ready to start typing in our first line of code. So for those of you who have the notebook, please click on this first cell, just as I have, right? And below the line where it says enter code here, we're going to type in exclamation mark, okay? And so one good thing about Colab is it automatically gives you the code. So we're not going to use what it recommended here, because we're going to save ourselves the trouble of typing in pip install every time and instead install everything in one line. I will show you how to do that now. So after the exclamation point, we're going to type in pip. Now we're using the exclamation point because although we're currently working in a browser, we want to be able to access our system as well, right? Our laptops or computers, whatever you're using. So by using exclamation, we're telling Colab that we also want to use what's on our system, okay? And here, since we're installing software, we are saying we want to install this software on our system, not just within the Colab environment. Now, this is helpful because sometimes if your browser suddenly freezes or you have to shut it down, then again, you have to keep reinstalling it, right? So if you install it on your system once and for all, then it'll be ready for you the next time you open your browser. Okay, so we have typed in exclamation, okay, to indicate that we want to use our system. And then we use pip. So pip is a very popular Python package for installing all kinds of libraries. So you will find this used very often. After pip, we type in install. So this is the command which lets Colab know that we want to install libraries. And we can start listing the names of the libraries that we want. So the first is PDF Plumber. Then put a space, and you can type in the next one, which is pandas. Then again, put a space and put in open AI. So you see how I've saved myself the trouble of constantly typing pip install, right? Earlier, the recommendation that Colab gave was to keep typing exclamation, pip install, and then the name of the library. So this is one of the tips that coders use when they want to be quick. After OpenAI, the last one is fuzzy wuzzy. Okay, now we're ready to execute the cell. So we are going to click the arrow. And it'll start searching for the package online and then installing it. So when you see this sort of symbol, it means it is working in the background. There we go. See, it says collecting. This might take a few seconds, and that's normal. For me, it has finished. It said it took 5 seconds of execution time, and it's done. It gives you the entire log. Okay, so I'll give everyone a few seconds. Ideally, it should be quick, but just to make sure that you can follow along. I even provided a tip for you here. So Google Colab does not recognize pip install as a Python command. All right. This is why you need to use the exclamation, as it needs to execute as a system command. This is why I was telling you that you want to work on a system level, and you need to tell Colab that you want to work at a system level. So the exclamation is really important. If you don't add it, you might face issues and you will get errors with installation. Okay, everyone, so I hope you have it installed and ready. Now we have a term called importing. So there's an important difference between installing and importing. Even when you're manually trying to install software on your system, you will go through 2 steps. One is downloading it from the website, and the next is to actually install it on your system or to run it. So likewise, in the Colab environment, you have 2 steps. One is called the installation, right? Which is straightforward. You're downloading it and getting it on your system. But the next step is importing, which means you are bringing it into the Colab's environment, and you're telling Colab, I want to use this software. So in order to do that, we're going to type in there. It's already telling us we're going to use the import command and then put all the names of the different files that we want. But we're still not going to use what it suggests, because there's one more thing that I need to tell you about, and these are warnings. Okay, so instead of typing import OS and all of that, I will only type import warnings. Import warnings. Okay. And the reason we do that is because in Python, it gives us all kinds of error messages, which is a good thing, but sometimes it will also give us future warnings. And this means that if a library is going to depreciate or stop being used at some point in the future, it starts telling us right now. And that causes unnecessary panic, especially for beginners, because you think this is a warning and you think something's wrong with your code, but no, it's just a future warning letting you know that in the future, this particular library will not be used. All right. So to avoid any unnecessary confusion and panic, we're going to import this warnings library, and we will suppress that kind of warning, unnecessary warnings. Okay. So just give me a second to make it quicker. Here. See that? So we are importing warnings, and then we're calling the filter warnings module. By typing in warnings dot, we are saying that we are taking a module from this library. And in the brackets, we're specifying which kind of warnings we want to filter. So you can filter all the warnings if you want, but that's not a good idea, because if you make a mistake in your code, then you want it to show you that, right? But these kind of unnecessary warnings about, in the future, some library will not work, that we want to ignore. And that's why we're going to write ignore within the brackets. Okay. Now we're going to run this code. And this should be very quick. It took 0 seconds. And ideally for all of you, it should be the same. But I will give you a little time because you must be typing it in. Originally, I wanted to put it in the chat for some of you so that you can copy and paste it. So I put it in the chat. For those of you who do have access, you can copy it and paste it. If not, it's right here on my screen and you can type in. So the command is import warnings and warnings.filter warnings ignore. Now, some of you might be wondering what the double quotation is for. That just indicates that this is a string value. Okay? A string. Sorry, yes? Sorry, someone said something. I missed that. I think I heard something about the chat. So I'll just repeat. For some of you, your company policy is not allowing you to access the chat. So maybe that's why you're not seeing it. But some of you should be able to see it. The chat has been enabled for everyone. So if you're not able to see it, that means it has to do with your company policy. So you can take a look at my screen and copy from there. Okay, everyone. Hopefully you were able to run it as well. Now I provided a tip for you here. We suppress warnings because they are messages about non-critical issues, right? Issues which are actually something you shouldn't worry about. It's more for your information. And these messages just clutter the screen and cause panic. So it's an optional step. So if you still want to see these warnings, no problem. You don't have to run this code, But ideally, just so your screen is clear, it is best to run this code. Okay, that was the first library that we imported. Now we're ready to import the rest. Okay, we have the OS library. This is used for file operations. So this means if you want to work with PDF files or even entire folders, right, then you need to use OS. It just stands for operating system. Then I already explained about PDF Plumber and Pandas and Fuzzy Wuzzy, OpenAI, as well as warnings. So OS is the new one. Okay, let's start importing. Import OS. Then you need to press enter and import PDF Plumber. Okay, it might automatically recommend. In that case, you can just, yeah, you could just press enter and it will accept. But for me, it's not working. So I'll just type it manually, no problem. But ideally for you, it should work. PDF Plumber, import pandas. Now, some of you may have noticed if you go through code online or through tutorials and things, some people will say import pandas as PD. Now, the reason they do this is just to make it easier for typing purposes. Otherwise, every time they have to write the full word pandas. Of course, pandas is a short word, but some people still like to shorten even that. So I thought I would just let you know, because usually when you go through tutorials, people will use this tactic, but they forget to explain why, and that can cause confusion for beginners. So the only reason this is done is to make it easier for typing. So it's an optional step. You don't have to say as PD. And you could even give it different names. You could say, I want to say pan, because that's short too, pan. But whatever name you give it, you have to keep using that same name throughout your code. So if you're using pandas, you should always refer to it as, in this case, pan. Or if you made it PD, always refer to it as PD. You can't use different versions each time. Okay, then import Fuzzy Wuzzy and import OpenAI. Finally, yeah, that's it. Just up to OpenAI, because we have already imported warning. Now, once you have all of this written, you can execute it. And it should take about 2 seconds, not too long. Okay, so importing just means we brought this into the Colab environment. Installing does not automatically bring it, it just downloads it. And now importing means we're explicitly telling Colab these are the different libraries that we want to use for our project. So ideally, everybody has this typed. And you run the cell. So all this code that we ran just now was to set up our environment. We still haven't created the agent yet. We just set up the environment. And the last step in setting up the environment is to set the API key. Okay. Now, ideally, everyone has their API key ready. Before you can enter your API key, you need to enter this code. This first part here is just a comment, so you don't have to type that. What you do need to type is os.environ. So this is the environ module, okay, which is just short for environment. And it's letting Colab know that we're trying to connect with the API key to ChatGPT. Now, after os.environ, we're indicating which API key we want. So that's the OpenAI underscore API underscore key. So it understands which key this is. Now, after the equal to sign, you will notice a set of two quotations. In between this, you should put your API key. Okay, everyone. So you can put your API key within those quotations. And then you can press run. I have my key here. So I think everyone would have typed the command by now. It's just os.environ, open a square bracket, and put double quotations. Then put OpenAI underscore API underscore key. So remember, when we put something between double quotations, it's because it is a string value. In coding, a string value is just a sentence or a word. Okay. But Python doesn't know that this is a sentence or a word. So we have to indicate that it's a sentence or a word by using double quotations. Okay, I will enter my API key and I'll execute it. So it ran successfully and it just takes 0 seconds. Okay, now we're ready to start defining the actual function. Okay, so we're going to define a function named extract text from PDF. That's a very intuitive name, right? And this is one of the tips when you're writing code. The name that you give to a function should be understandable. That's what we call good code. At the same time, it shouldn't be too long. All right, here I made it very obvious so that for understanding's sake, you can understand. But in industry coding or production ready code, it should be shorter than this, but still easy to understand. Okay. So this takes one parameter, that is file underscore path, which is the location of the path of the PDF file to process. Okay. So a doc string is the text that is written within 3 sets of double quotations. Let me show you what that is. When we say doc string, this section of code is long, so by the time I type it, it might take a while. That's why I have it ready here. Because functions are usually long. Okay. One more tip is when you see a hashtag written before a sentence, that means it is a comment. So Python will not execute that line. It is just for human readers who are looking at the code to understand what is going on. So if you want to explain what this section of code does, that's when you use a hashtag or a comment. Okay. Likewise, whenever you see 3 sets of quotations like this, double quotations, right, over here, that is also a comment. That's not executed by Python, but it is just for human readers to understand what is going on. So you can use a combination of these two methods to write your comments. Here I wrote them, like I use both techniques for the purpose of demonstrating, but you could even choose just one and go with that. Okay, so whenever you're writing a function, you should always start it with DEF, like you can see here. That means define. It's just a short form for define. It tells Python that we are now going to write a function. Okay? After
Sorry to
you,
interrupt.
yes?
Can you please share some file, this file, like everyone, if we are not access to this chat, right? So if
Yes, I shared it through email and it was sent. So please do check your spam. Maybe it's there.
functions you have shared, or you are talking about this?
So I gave it to the Future Tech team because they have your email IDs. I don't have your email IDs. So they have sent it to you. Whichever email you signed up with, right, or you gave to them, please check in that inbox. And also check your spam.
I'm not talking about this notebook file that I already received. I'm talking about these
Okay.
functions which you are currently writing here.
Yes.
We need to sync with you. So if you can
Yes.
just provide in any open drive or any file, then it would be great.
Okay. Okay, so the plan was to have everyone type along with me because that way you really focus on it better. And then at the end, I give you the completed notebook because otherwise you will just see the code and, just listen. So hopefully you can follow along on my screen. If you want, maybe instead of waiting for you to type, I can just continue directly. Does that help?
But yeah, not quite. But as if we are typing, then we cannot. I continue with conversation. We cannot conversation with you.
Ah,
So
okay, that's why I
uh,
was pausing in between. Okay, so
yeah,
what I'll do is I will just keep typing, right, and explaining. And at the end, I will give you the completed notebook. Okay,
that's
sure. And you can look at my screen and see the outputs that are there. Okay, everyone. So define is to let Python know that you're now creating a function. And this is your own function that you're making. Then you give the name of the function. So here the name of the function is extract underscore text underscore from underscore PDF. Okay. And then we're giving it the file path. So we just write file path so that it knows that it has to take the content from this file path. Next, it extracts the text from the PDF or the resumes. So it'll store it in this variable. We're calling the variable text, right? We want to give it an intuitive name, so we're calling it text. And because we know that it's a string value, that means sentences from the PDF, we're putting it within double quotations. So we are saying that in a variable that accepts string values, we want all the data from the PDF to be stored. Now we're going to use what is known as a try and except block. Now this is good practice for error handling. So seasoned programmers, they will always use try and except blocks because computers will make mistakes. So we try to anticipate in advance what mistake it can make or what problem it might come across. And we create a try and accept block to handle it. All right. So here we are saying with pdfplumber.open. So we're saying when the file is opened by pdfplumber, okay, using the file path that we have given as PDF. So we're saying just take this content as PDF for now. Then for page in PDF, because sometimes the PDF might have multiple pages. So we are creating what is known as a for loop. This loop will go through each page and take out the content from there. Okay, so for page in PDF pages. Now we are using, you remember we created text here, that's going to hold the final value. But initially when it is reading, it first stores it as PDF. Okay, then it takes the necessary information that we want, that is the keywords from the resume, and it puts it under text. Now you see this plus equal to symbol, plus equal to, that means increment. So it'll take one word and then go to the next word and the next and so on and store it in text. Okay. Then we use the page.extract underscore text function. So this is what will take out the text and store it under the text variable. Okay, then we have +/n. So this indicates that we want a new line. So Python doesn't automatically think like a human being. Let me first type one word and then press enter and go to the next line. It doesn't know how to do all that. We have to tell it. So by saying /n, we are saying please start in a new line for the next term. All right. That's the main function that it's doing. Now in the except block, we're going to write what kind of error it could potentially have, right, or come across. So except exception as E. Okay, we are saying this is the name of the exception. E is the name of the exception, and except is the name of the function. This is a ready-made function which is already existing within Python. We're saying print X, error extracting text from, and then the file name. So sometimes the file may not be processed correctly. So this is when we will get an error message. If we don't put this error message here explicitly, then it'll just crash and it'll not tell us what happened. This is why, as far as possible, as a programmer, we try to think in advance of what problem might come up, and we try to provide an error message telling the user what happened exactly. Okay? And then we put return, because when you end a function, you should always return a value. And here, this value that's being returned is just the text without any spaces. When you see dot strip, this function removes any spaces. So now it has pure text, no spaces, no fancy symbols, nothing like that. Just the pure text with no spaces. All right, that's what this code is doing. Now, we're going to, let's see, I also have resumes for you, like dummy resumes, which we're going to add. So on the left-hand side, if you take a look, you will see this kind of folder icon. Okay, this is where you can upload files and folders. But remember, as soon as you shut down your browser, or if you get disconnected from the internet, you will lose those files and folders. So that's something you should keep in mind. We're going to click that. And this is the folder that I was talking about. Okay, wait. Let me click and drag because I want the entire folder. So if you want just the file, you can open it the way I did. But if you want the folder, you will have to open it separately in your Finder window and drag it into the workspace. Now it tells you in advance that your files are not saved if you log out or close this browser. So you can just press OK. It's just giving you this information and it'll start uploading. You should see the upload symbol here. Now it might take some time. And that's normal because this folder has 3 files. Let me ask the team to send this to you as well. Okay, so ideally you should receive it when they send it to you. Okay. I think because, so I had 3 sample resumes for you, but that made the file bulky for now for the demo. So let me just work with 1 resume. Otherwise it'll take too long. Okay, everyone, we will go with let's take this too. Okay, so as you can see, now it has appeared because I took only one resume. Sometimes it can be bulky like that, and I'm doing the same for the email request. Okay, so I've asked them to share it with you as well. Now coming back to the demo, I have the file here, and I need the file path, right? So if I want the file path, you can see these three dots here next to the file name. Click on that, and then you will see copy path. All right, so that's where the path will be. But we're not going to use it yet. I just showed you for now. This is where you can find it. Let's execute the code. Good, we see that it took 0 seconds. Now we're ready for the next function. Okay, everyone. Yes. So again, to save time, because this is also a function, I'm entering it here. Now in this function, we're going to do the actual matching. Okay, we're going to match the candidate skills with the job requirement that we enter. So again, we've used define, and this time we're going to call it match skills. Then we give it the input candidate text, okay, and job description. So candidate text will be taken from the resume file. It's going to parse the PDF resume, right? And it'll find out all the skills of this candidate. Then it'll take the job description from the HR person, which in this case will be us. Okay. So candidate words, we're going to set it to lowercase. So by using the set function, okay, and then candidate underscore text dot lower. So this function text dot lower takes everything from the input of our PDF file and makes it lowercase. Even if it was originally a capital letter, it will make it a lowercase letter. This is usually good practice because for Python, it sees these as two different elements, capital case and lowercase. So then it'll give you errors if you have some in capital and some in lower, even if it is actually the same word. So to avoid any issues, we always turn it to lowercase. Okay. Then same for the job words, we're turning everything to lowercase because if the HR person types some upper and some lower, we make sure that it's all uniform by turning it into lowercase. Then we calculate the actual skill match score. This is done using the fuzz.tokenset ratio. So this is a predefined algorithm within Fuzzy Wuzzy. You remember the library that we imported earlier, Fuzzy Wuzzy? So that's imported. And it will do the calculation for us by giving it the candidate word and the job words. So it will compare these two, calculate the relevance that they have to each other, and give you a score out of 100. And then it'll return skill match. So we say that we want this value, this final relevance score that it gives, to be stored under skill match. Okay, so I will run this as well. Good, that ran. Now we'll go to the next function. So I'm speeding up now because I think some of you said you prefer to see the actual code to follow along, but I'll be giving that to you later. So I'm just explaining the code and putting it in the cell. Okay, now our function is to rank candidates. Okay, so again, we use define function. By now you know what it does. And the name that we're giving it is AI rank candidate. This function takes resume text, right, which is all the words from the keywords from the PDF file, and the job description, which is what the HR person types. That means that if they are looking for a data scientist, for example, that will be job description. Okay. So this uses OpenAI to rank the resume based on job relevance. So here we're setting it to client, so that within our function, it can be used as client. Then we have OpenAI, that's the function, and API underscore key is equal to os.get environment. You remember we had earlier the environment function. So from there, it is now taking the API key, which means we don't have to enter it again. Okay. So without entering the key again, we are just putting OpenAPI key, and it'll use the key. Okay, so here's a little more about the formula that it uses, okay? Because you might be wondering, how does it decide? So it takes the skill match score, okay? And adds that to the AI score, and then divides it by 2. So as an example, if the skill match score is 78, okay? And the AI score is 85, it will add these two, 78 plus 85, and then divide it by 2, and give you 81.5, right? So this explanation and everything is in the notebook. You can go through it in more detail. Then the results that it creates will be candidate, which is the resume file name, then skill match, which is the keyword matching score, AI score, which is an AI-based resume ranking, right, using that fuzzy wuzzy algorithm, and the final score, which is the overall score. Okay, now we will enter the next function. Okay, just a second. This is the next part of that same function, okay? There. So here we are telling the agent, the AI agent, what its role is. This is the important part. The more descriptive you are, the better the agent will work. So we're telling the agent that you are an HR expert, okay? And we're telling it to evaluate the following resume, the resume that we give it, against the job description. Then it'll print out the resume text and the job description and give a score between 0 and 100 based on relevance. Then we're telling it to return only the score. We don't want the entire calculation that it does. We just want the score. Then for the response, right, we're using the client chat completions and create functions. Okay, so the client, you remember we set the client as OpenAI ChatGPT. So that's what it's using. And then chat is the specific model that we want, which we mentioned here later, this GPT-4, because you know ChatGPT has many different versions of the model. So we need to specify which one we want to work with. Then completions and create. So we're saying complete this analysis and then create this output, which is just the score from the algorithm, right? The relevance score. Then within the bracket, we mentioned GPT-4. Here we're just using the GPT-4 model, but over time, as newer models come up, you can change it accordingly. Then messages. These are the messages that we want to send to our agent. So we're saying that your role is, as a system, you're going to check content at you're an HR expert scoring resume. Okay, you're an HR expert scoring resumes. And then the next role we give it is for the user. And the content is our prompt, where we are saying, check all of the content from the resume, find the specific skills that we're looking for, and give us a score based on that. Then you will notice maximum tokens. This just means in the output, the maximum number of words that it can give us is 10. Okay. Then we have score. So that'll be response.choices. Now we're setting the initial value to 0, okay, or the index to 0, which means the first one. That's what we want. And then we're saying message.content.strip. Again, you see the strip function. We said that it removes the blank spaces between words, okay? And then return integer of score. Now, although it'll return a number, where we can't guarantee that it'll return only an integer or a decimal or something else, right? Some other numeric value, a fraction. So to make sure that everything is uniform and there are less errors as possible, we're saying that we want it to be an integer, okay, from the start. Then we're saying if the score is a digit, check if it is an integer. Otherwise, put 0. Because if it doesn't have any value, we don't want it to confuse us by saying error, no value. So instead, it'll just put 0 automatically. Again, this is one way of handling possible errors in our code. All right, let's run that. Okay, it ran successfully. Now we're ready to go to the next function. Okay, the next function is to actually process the resume. Here. So in this, we define process resumes, and we see that resume folder is one of the inputs. In this case, it'll just be a single resume because uploading the folder was taking too long. And then job description, which comes from the HR. So it'll process all the folders, the resumes, and store it in results, which is a list. Okay, it's a list. That's why we have the square brackets. So for resume underscore file in OS list directory, so it is checking the main directory. Okay, resume underscore folder. So it's going to check each resume within the folder. Here is where we have file path is equal to os.path.join, okay, resume underscore folder, resume underscore file. So we're saying check each folder, each file within the folder, okay, because it has to be told to iterate. So if the file path ends with .pdf, after checking the folder, it sees if it is a PDF file or not. Okay, if it's not a PDF file, it doesn't accept it. And then print, so it's going to give us a message, processing resume file. So it'll say processing and give us the name of the file. Then resume underscore text. So we have extract underscore text underscore from PDF. This function will take the file path, okay, and store it as resume underscore text. So whatever information it gets from this file path, it will now store it under resume underscore text. Then we use the skill match score, which we created earlier. So that will run on the information that we give it. That's the resume text, okay, and the job description. So this is just, it is comparing the skills that it gets from the resume with the job description. And it's calculating it. Okay. AI score. AI score is AI underscore rank underscore candidate. Okay. And then the resume text and job description. That's where the AI score comes from. And then the final score, that's the formula that we just spoke about, right? Skill match score plus AI score divided by 2. That is to give it some weighted scoring. Then results.append. So in the final result, all we display is the candidate. Okay, that's the skills from the resume file. And then skill match. So then we display the skill match score, as well as the AI score and the final score. Now in the final score, it's possible that because it's a percentage, we get a decimal, right, with many places. But we don't want that much information, all those digits. So we just say round it off to 2 places. That is what this function does, the round off function. It takes the final score, and then based on the number that we give it, it'll give us only that many digits after the decimal value. and then return pd.data frame. So from pandas, it is now turning the score into a data frame. Okay, and now we can go to the next function. This is to save it as a CVS file. That's what this function will do, which I'm putting in now. Right, so again, we create the function. Then we call it save results to CSV file. So we have df, then output file. df is the data frame that was created. And then the output file, this is the name that we want for the CSV file that's created. So here we're just going to call it ranked_candidates.csv. Then save results to a CSV file. So we're going to sort it. Maybe let me not put the mouse there. Okay, df.sort_values. And we say we want it to be sorted by final score in ascending order. But here we put false. So actually we're saying descending order. So usually in coding, you have to be careful about that. We've used the binary or the Boolean value, false. So it's not ascending, but descending. And then in place is true. That means in the same file, we want all the changes to take place. Otherwise, it'll keep making new versions of the file. Then df to CSV. So from a data frame, right, from the data frame, it's now making it a CSV file because that's the output that we want. Then output_file, index is equal to false. So we don't want it to be indexed, okay? Which just means you know that first column you have where it gives you 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want that. Then we tell Python to print out the message to let the user know that the results are saved and the name of the output file. Okay. So let's run this. Done. Yeah. Okay, now we're ready for the final. The final function. Let's enter that. Okay, so this function puts everything together. Although we created all the different functions before, we're not able to run them seamlessly, right? One after the other. But with this final function, which we're going to call run resume screener, we will be able to run all of them at one shot. So let's see how that's done. We create if name is equal to main. So this is actually what we call a class. We are creating a class, which we're calling main. And then we're saying job_description is equal to input. This means we're taking the input from the HR person, right? Or in this case, it is us. And we're giving them a prompt. We're letting them know what value they should enter. So we're saying enter the job description. And you can even put an emoji just to make it more interesting, but that's optional. Then we have resume_folder. This is where we put the file path. So I showed you earlier how to get the file path. We just go over to the file, click on the 3 dots, and from the drop-down menu, copy path. So keep in mind, originally this was designed for an entire folder, but because it's taking so long, we're just taking a single file. Okay. So although the variable name is resume folder, that's fine. We can just put in the file path for a single file. Okay. Then we have df_results. So that's process resumes. Okay. It's going to process the score. That's the function that we created earlier, process resumes. It takes resume folder. So whatever information it finds in the resume, it takes that and compares it with the job description. Then it's going to print out the ranked candidates. So it'll show us the ranking and it'll give us the results. All right, so this first line just gives us the title ranked candidates. And you see the new line function here, the new line code. So in a new line, it is going to give us this title and it's going to give us the results. So let's run it and see what it gives us. You see this? It's asking me for an input. Now, for the purpose of the demo, I'm thinking of putting it as data scientist with Python and SQL. Okay, let's say I'm looking for a data scientist who knows Python and SQL. So I put that in, and then I press enter. Let me see. Process resumes. Just a second. I think with copying and pasting, something got missed out.
Hello. At last you put it the whole file names. So maybe that is the wrong.
Yes, that is a good point. So usually when we name our files, it is best to put them as an underscore or a dash. Usually underscore is better. So thank you for pointing that out. And copy path. There. So you see now it's all together. Let's try one more time. So we're going with data scientist with Python and SQL. Yeah, it's not recognizing process resume. I think I didn't enter it. Let's see. Okay, please give me a moment.
Maybe you need to rerun the cells again.
No, that function seems to be missing. I think when I copied and pasted it, it missed out that part. Because the warning tells me what problem is there. But thank you, I appreciate the interaction.
I would like to ask, can't you use for agentic AI, there are several frameworks available, like LangChain is there and LangGraph.
Yes, what about that?
I just heard the best way to initialize an agentic AI is with LangGraph or with LangChain.
That is if you're using LangChain. Here we're using Crew AI.
Okay.
Yes. So it's good you brought that up. So there are many different tools. Here we're using Crew AI, but you could also use LangChain, as just suggested. And the coding for that is different. That can be a different session. If you're interested in LangChain, we can do that. Okay, so type that in.
Hello, as like you have used Creo and LangChain and all of these things. What, according to you, what is the best framework to build agentic AI models?
That's a good question. So it really depends on what you find convenient, right? Because they all work the same way, or rather in the background, they work the same way, right? They build your agent for you, but the ease of programming, some people find Crew AI more easy. That's why for beginners, we recommend that. But for more advanced programmers, we recommend LangChain. And of course, there are some cases where there are beginners who can grasp quickly, so they find even LangChain easy to use. So I would say it depends on your comfort in programming. The beauty of Crew AI is everything is already created as a function for you. So you have less coding in that sense. All you have to do is call the function, and it'll run much quicker with less lines of code. So thank you for that question. Maybe while I'm working on this, does anyone else have questions that you would like to ask? Since the chat isn't working, you can feel free to unmute and ask your questions.
like in your experience, which model is best? Like Gemini is there, Meta Llama is there, OpenAI is also there. So
Yes.
based on your experience, I just want to know like uh, which model did you find like most suitable?
To be honest, I find that Claude is the most accurate in terms of information. Have you all heard of Anthropic Claude?
Uh, like
Yes.
like
Yes,
want to
Amazon. Yeah.
which one would be the most suitable one? Like their Gemini is there, like they are providing 25,000 of free credentials. Apart from
Yes.
it, Greenface is also there. So like free use case.
Yeah, please. So personally, I actually use Claude AI for all my projects because it's so accurate, and I'm sure all of you have heard of hallucinations, or even if you haven't heard of it, you would have seen that sometimes the information that AI gives you is incorrect, or it'll write it in a convincing way, but actually it's wrong information. Have you noticed sometimes you will get something, or you would have heard in the news also? Recently, there was this person who looked for reviews, but they used AI to generate the reviews, and then they published it publicly in an article. It was about a movie or something, and then they got into trouble because one of the reviews was a bad one, and it was actually AI generated. It wasn't an actual review. And this person just took it for granted that what AI gave them was true. So they got into a lot of legal trouble because of that. So hallucinations, that is one example of a hallucination where AI gives you incorrect information. But I found that with Claude, the amount of hallucinations is much less. It's a lot more accurate in its information. It's not fully perfect, so don't get me wrong, but it's less incorrect than the other models. So personally, I prefer Claude. I think Amazon did a good job when you must have seen in the news recently, they partnered with Anthropic. So they made a good choice there, I would
Because
say.
it's already 30 minutes extended than the normal time. We cannot continue now. It's already
Oh,
30
okay.
minutes.
All right, sure. So thank you for bringing up the time as well. I'm sorry about the demo. I will have to see why it went wrong, but I will be sharing the code with you so you can test it out yourself. And all the dummy resumes as well, or the sample resumes, I will give those to you too. For now, there's an assessment that we would like you to do so that we can see what you've understood from the session. All right. And this is a graded assessment. So not to worry, but just to let you know, it will be graded. Okay, everyone? So I'll give you this is the QR code for it. I'm sharing the screen now. All right. So can everyone please take out your camera and scan this QR code? You will be taken to a form, a Google form, which has the assessment. So is anyone having trouble accessing the assessment? Okay. It's a simple MCQ, so please do go ahead and answer whatever you can.
Can I get a scanner screen again? I was unable to scan at that time.
Sure.
Thank you.
Welcome. Let me just switch it over to. There, do you see it now? Okay, everyone, hopefully you were all able to access the assessment. Did anyone have any trouble? Okay, think not. So if you have completed the assessment, then we can end the session here. We'll be sharing the slide deck, the code files, all of that with you. So I hope that you enjoyed and learned a lot about Agentic AI, and I really appreciate the questions that you have. So all of you are definitely familiar with AI agents. And I definitely had fun teaching all of you. It's been great meeting you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you.